Hello, everyone, and welcome to your first day of class. I'm Marketing Communications Manager and faculty member Daniel Sloan, and on behalf of Trident, I want to say thank you for taking the next step in your educational journey with us. New students often have a lot of questions, and we are here to help. As a way to ease you into our unique student-centered model, we've designed this webinar that will cover all of the areas vital to success in your chosen program. Let me introduce today's presenters. First, we have Dr. George Delhira, who's currently a department chair in University College. During his time at Trident, he has worked closely with students in a variety of roles, including academic advising, financial aid, and academic probation support services. Dr. Delhira earned a PhD in educational leadership from Trident and has received numerous awards during his time at the university, including honors for communication and collaboration and student motivation. He is a passionate advocate for student success. Next, we have Tasha Cureton. She currently serves as a Student Success Advisor 3 and part-time faculty member. For the past 10 years, she has helped facilitate initiatives to improve student success, namely as senior manager in the Center for Student Success. From assisting with orientation to being a member on the Committee of Academic Standards, her passion is to help students reach their academic dreams. Joining us during the Q&A session will be Christina Saenz, Student Success Advisor 3 in our Center for Student Success. She's held a number of roles during her 10 years at Trident, including Supervisor of Graduate Advisors. Her dedication to meeting student needs is demonstrated through compassionate, active listening, seeking to understand and striving to act in the best interests of her students. Just a couple notes before we begin the session. Although a portion of the webinar has been pre-recorded, you have the option to ask questions at any time. Look for the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, find a question box, type in your question, and hit submit. The FDOC team is behind the scenes right now. Let us know if you have any questions. We'll answer them during the live Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Now I'm going to hand things off to Tasha to talk about student success tips. The floor is yours, Tasha.
Thanks, Daniel, and welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you here. I love Trident University. I've been a student, I teach, and I wear many different hats, and I work with students very closely. So this is an exciting time for you to start on your educational path. Here's some things that we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about tips for success. I'm going to spend some time really digging in there. It can be a little nerve-wracking when you haven't done school for a while, or it's just a totally new environment. And so we want to make that transition as smooth and comfortable as possible for you. Dr. Delhira is going to talk about academic writing. That tends to be one of the main concerns with students when they're coming back to school is, how do I write? How do I get back in the mode of formatting my paper? And then we're going to talk about career and networking support. But I would ask everyone to stick around for what I think is one of my favorite parts of the webinar, which is the questions section. We always have great questions, and there's a great student success story at the end. So stay tuned. Now we're going to talk a little bit about just tips for success and moving into your classes for the first time. So whether you've been away for years, maybe this is your first class in college, or maybe you're just transitioning right into a different school, we want you to be confident. Everyone here has a different walk of life, and you all bring different perspectives. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent, maybe you're a veteran or advanced in your career, or maybe like one of my 89-year-old students who came back and got a master's degree, you're in another season of life and you're ready to move forward. So what I mean by that is, know that your perspective will enhance the conversation and your discussions in your class, and you are worthy to be here. So feel free to ask questions. Know that you're supported. We're going to talk about your support team. Get to know your professors and peers. As faculty members on here, we often see students a little nervous to reach out to us, and there's no need for that. We want you to feel connected as a university and between you and the student. You as the student, my apologies. We're going to talk a lot about time management and long-term academic planning, but most importantly, have fun. And this will help with your motivation. This is something, you know, if you ever get stuck or just feel like things are difficult, that's when it's time and a trigger should go off that you need to reach out and connect with us. And we are here and we genuinely want to help. So let's start by talking about time management. And this is something very near and dear to my heart. As Danny Sloan said, I got my master's degree at Trident University. At the time, I was a manager. I had a very extremely premature baby. I was in the office a lot and managing life and work, and I wanted to get my master's degree. So I can relate to trying to balance it all. One of my rules was when I got home from work, I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch. And the reason I say that is because it is so easy, especially these days, to just sit down, watch some TV, or get on your phone and just kind of veg out. By staying off the couch, my rule was then I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch until I went and did my homework. So that kind of comes up to our first point, which is create a time management plan. This might be new for some of you, or some of you might live and die by your planner. And so if this is new for you, think about it this way. You're creating a plan to succeed. When I see students not creating a plan, sometimes I challenge them to do so, and usually they come back and are able to submit more on time. They're able to figure out when they want to go to school for themselves. No one here is telling you to go to school at what time, right? Usually you have a certain amount, whether if it's your CERT program, you have a week, or if it's your master's, associates, or bachelor's, you have 2 weeks to do your module. And so anytime within there, you need to set aside a few nights or maybe mornings, whenever you think best and you have time dedicated to make that your school time. So when your friends call and they miss you because they haven't seen you in a while, you've got schoolwork to do and you want to plan your life around that. Now, Trident is all about flexibility too. And so consider weekends, holidays, birthdays, vacations. We want you to have a life, but you're now fitting this new component into your schedule. And if you don't make time for it, there just won't be time for it. And so I love to see a student with a plan. If that's something you can do today, get out your planner. I use my planner here. I have a wall calendar that you can see here in the back, and I have a digital calendar. So I am all about scheduling your schoolwork. And in the beginning, you may want to go in every day for even 15 minutes just to get a sense of what do you need to accomplish the things and to kind of feel like you're in the rhythm of school. Because I always tell students, you know, in your first few sessions, always take classes back to back so that you can get into a good rhythm. Because once you get out of that rhythm, sometimes it's hard to jump back in. So write down your due dates. The bachelor's and master's and associate's classes are usually due on Sunday nights. So I would always say try and do your first discussion the first week of the module and your peer responses the following week. If you have questions about this, we can talk more in the Q&A section as well. And make adjustments to your schedule, but I think the key is to just have a plan, right? Don't get discouraged when you fall behind. Again, as I mentioned before, that's kind of that trigger. If you're falling behind, you may think, oh, well, I don't want to give excuses, or this is just on me. Trust me, we understand what it's like to be adults and to have things come up. And so we can't help you if we don't know what's going on. And it's not to judge you. It's not to be upset with you. It's to say, hey, that's okay. Look, you still have time to do this, or maybe we can help you with this option. Again, there are options and exceptions if needed. And that's something that there are eligibility requirements, but we want to help you with. So let's talk a little bit about who you're going to be reaching out to in that support group. When you log into your student portal today on the homepage of mytlc.trident.edu, you will see 2 photos, and those are consider that kind of like your support team, right? There's going to be your student finance advisor, and there's going to be your student success advisor. Hey, maybe some of you guys have my face on there. You never know. I do support a lot of students, and I love it. And so in addition to that, right now, if you've just started your program, you are working with your admissions advisor. Hopefully you've built a good rapport with them. And once they get you all set up in class and started in class, within the first 2 weeks, they're going to transition you over to someone like myself, a student success advisor, who is then going to become your point of contact. I'd always encourage you to save their phone number. Note when they email you. I always try to only email my students when it's something important that I want them to know. And so just kind of start to get in the groove of checking your emails every day, or we text and we call. So, and then finally, the other piece to that puzzle is your instructor. Now that will change from session to session, but they don't know what they don't know, right? And so if you're not submitting work and they don't know what's going on with you, they're just assuming maybe they're not interested in class, or you just don't want to leave any room for assumption. So I would always say, even just email your teacher and give them an update about what's going on, or if you have any questions, or maybe there's something that you like about the class. So just know that although you're alone in your room or at your desk doing your work, you're not alone. You are part of this bigger Trident family. And so I really hope that when you make it to our commencement and you watch the video or you attend in person, that you can see that you are a part of a much bigger, huge Trident family. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of our resources. You may be wondering, okay, what is there available for me that's going to help me transition and getting started in school? So in your mytlc.trident.edu portal, there is across the top several options, and one of them on the far right says My Resources. Here you'll see a list of resources available to you. Math and writing tend to be a big thing that students are concerned about, rightfully so. Usually students will be nervous about managing their time and writing and doing the academic piece. If you can manage your time, you've got half of the battle won. Now here's the resources that could help. We do use APA formatting as our general formatting style for the school for papers. Now, it is important to note that that's what we stick with, but it's depending on your assignments, it might not be required. Like in a math class, they might not ask that you do APA. We are in the transition right now. Some classes are using edition 6 and some 7. That is something that is in the process of transitioning. So I'd always ask your teacher, but the key is I would encourage you to start to get to know that. A quick Google search and you will find so much information on that. But don't be worried, don't be overwhelmed by it. Learning is a gradual process, right? And then the Turnitin guide, which is something to kind of help you ensure that your work shows as your original work. The next thing that we're going to talk about is tutoring services. So if you see on this next slide that you are in one of these classes, English 101, Math 101, Statistics and Math 201, Health Statistics, Operations Management, Finance, or any of the TUX courses, there is something, and you'll see on here on the screen, that's called free tutoring. What this is we've partnered with tutor.com. And so if you're like me, you stay up late and you do your homework after the kids are in bed and everything's done. And so you can access a tutor anytime, 24/7. And it usually takes about 1 to 2 minutes to connect, but it's a great option if you're just feeling like, I just need to ask a few questions, or am I doing this right? So I'd encourage you to use that. The next is one of my favorite options or resources, because it's something that I help facilitate. Every day I'm in this orientation helping new students answer questions, have discussions. So if you have not done that as of today, please go in and before you go into your class, complete the online orientation. You'll have access to it for up to 6 months after you start your program, but it's by far the best way to go in and learn the portal, learn the classroom, and how you can navigate, how you can find your teachers, how you can participate in discussion. You can practice submitting work to make sure that you do it correctly. And I'm in there every day answering questions and just making sure people feel comfortable. And usually the feedback is that, oh my gosh, this is what helped me and overcome that hump and feel comfortable. Next, we're going to talk about just kind of first steps to do. I've kind of laid the groundwork now, but go in, log in to your class, do your orientation, and take a tour of your class. There's not much that you can click on that's going to break your class, or there's really not anything that could break it. But sometimes people are a little nervous. Just click around. There's different ways to access different information. And so the more time you spend in the class, the more you're going to feel comfortable. Look over the syllabus, read the assignments, and post your introduction. I always say the introduction is the easiest part. You literally just go in and say, hi, this is me, a little bit about me. And then you get to read about your peers and see that you might have a lot in common or something to learn from the peers in class. Ask questions and develop your time management plan. So that's kind of like the pre-gaming for the class, right? You want to make sure you've read the syllabus, you've read everything, but don't feel overwhelmed. I always felt in college, like the first week of class, that it was a lot of information, but then over time, you get reminders, you check your schedule, and you're doing good. And so develop that plan and check in with your advisor. I always, whenever I see a student that I don't know, I call them. I'm like, I need to know you because we haven't spoken yet. And I truly want to know them and what their goals are. So in summary today, you're going to log in, you're going to complete your orientation, you're going to introduce yourself in your class. And then I would encourage you by midweek, usually by Wednesday, to submit at least your Module 1 discussion post. That's different than your introduction. That's an actual assignment discussion post. Keep in mind, teachers are bound to a rubric. What is a rubric? It is a list of criteria that the student needs to meet for each assignment. And so you can see even in your class, okay, if I submit it on time, I'm going to get like full points, or, you know, they require this many words, so I get this many points. So always look at your rubrics. For all of our assignments, every module is 3 assignments. You're going to have your case assignment, your SLP, and your discussion post. Most classes have 4 modules. I think pretty much all of them. And sometimes your SLP might be a quiz or a paper. Your case assignment typically is a paper or an activity in that regard. Get to know your professors, set up your work area, and just be ready to go. And I would say as soon as you get your first discussion in, try to write a paper maybe by the weekend so that you don't have your case assignment, your SLP the second week of class. Or if you do both of them in the second week, it's no problem. But just make sure that you kind of know each day what you're going to be working on and submitting. And so my last advice is just really reach out, and we don't want you to feel alone. I always tell my students, I am full of the most random information. And so you don't know unless you ask. Maybe you can't find a resource in the library. Maybe you aren't sure how to set up text to get a grade notification. We can help you with that. So that being said, I'm excited for you. Hopefully that this information was helpful. I'm going to turn the time over to Dr. Delhira, and he's going to discuss one of the topics that I think is really crucial, and get ready to take some good notes. We're going to talk about academic writing. Dr. Delhira, I turn the time over to you.
On behalf of the faculty, I just want to extend my warmest welcomes to all of you. It's always the most exciting time of the month for us to welcome in a brand new crop of leaders into the Trident family. And so We all look forward to interacting with you, getting to know you, and seeing what great things you accomplish in and out of the classroom. So this section focuses on academic writing. It's one of the points of concern for some students, especially who have been out for a while. It causes some anxiety, and so the goal of these next couple slides are just to relieve some of that anxiety and give you some direction to build momentum. So Michael mentioned it, but these first couple days, it's going to be really imperative for you to get the wheels going. And so I hope to provide a broad overview of what your faculty will expect of you with writing and to relieve some of that anxiety for you. This first slide is just it's meant to frame your mindset for what the expectations are within academic writing and why and how is it different from what you might be used to within your military experience or business experience. So the three key differences that I want you to think about between business and / military and academic writing are the goals of writing, the process of writing, and voice. And so when you're in the military, so the first one is the goals of writing. If you're going to graduate from an accredited institution, you're expected to have a high degree of written and oral communication skills. And so that is kind of what we're helping prepare you for upon graduation. So the first point that I want you to think about is the goal of writing. So when you're in a business environment and when you're in a military environment, your goal of writing, the only purpose you're writing is for mission accomplishment and to accomplish objectives. The difference within what you're going to find in an academic environment is that the goal of writing is to help you become a better communicator. And so there are some steps and some areas that we look for as your faculty to help you become a better thinker and to help you become a better writer, a more effective writer. So for example, within the military and in business, you're writing to accomplish this objective as quickly and efficiently as possible. And when you're in your academic classes, we're looking for your logic and rational thought development of your ideas. So sometimes this comes out when you're answering questions as maybe a 1 to 2 sentence or a 1 to 3 sentence reply to answer a question, because you're in that mindset of answering the question and giving the conclusion as quickly and efficiently as possible. But that's not the only thing. That's actually not the most important thing that your faculty is looking for. It's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the reasons why and how you came to those conclusions, your critical thinking skills, and your logic and your rational thought development. And so that takes more time and it takes more effort to lay out those arguments and to do the research from different sources and integrate the background readings into your experience to support your conclusion. So your faculty member is not just looking for the answer. We're not just looking for the conclusion. We're looking for your reasons why, the thinking and the evidence behind it, and your logic and your rational thought development. The second area of that's a challenge or the difference between military and business writing versus academic writing is the process of writing. So when you're in a business environment or you're in a military environment, your superior would give you a command or an objective to write up a memo or write this up or write that up, do a report. You pass it off to your superior edits it, adds a couple things, passes it off to their superior, and before a decision is made, there's 2 or 3 hands that have touched this document. That's different than what you're going to find here and what your experience will be in an academic environment, because you are the single author of this document, of this assignment. So you have to go through the brainstorming. You have to go through the outlining and the editing and the drafting and the formatting, and all those things take time. And so you have to consider those elements when you develop your time management plan for these classes. The third key difference is voice. So if you haven't noticed, especially in the military, you're big on uniforms. I mean, you're dressing the same, you're often talking the same, and sometimes that comes out in your writing. That comes out in your writing, and so that causes some issues because it raises some concerns for academic integrity issues. So we want you to be aware of that. Your instructor will be looking for your independent understanding of these concepts. And so we're looking for you to paraphrase different ideas from a variety of different readings and background sources. We're looking for you to summarize some of these ideas in your own words. So quotations are great, but your instructor will care more about your understanding of these concepts. And that is different than stripping out a quotation and sticking it in your paper. It's fundamentally different, and it takes a lot more critical thinking and a lot more time and effort to summarize these different ideas in your own words and put them in. But that is what your instructor is looking for. And if you consider these things, you will reap the benefits of this program upon graduation, and I promise you will become a more effective communicator and contributor to your organizations. The next slide is just meant to give you a general overview of academic writing structure. And so this is not an all-inclusive slide. These are just some tips that as an instructor, I see students kind of missing these points. And so as a writer that you may not have as much experience in an academic environment, or maybe you've been out for a while, I hope that this gives you some direction to get the wheels going and build up that momentum early on. And so there are more resources, more in-depth resources like the ones that Michael mentioned within the Writing Center and our resources drop down. So please make use of that. But here I just want to frame your mind into what we're looking for in terms of structure and content. So there's basically going to be three main parts of your essay: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And so your introduction is kind of like any presentation you may give, like a PowerPoint presentation. You always have a first slide that tells your audience what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. And so that's your introduction paragraph. You're just going to be basically presenting an overview of what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. So I want you to think about this because there's an important statement in your introduction that your instructors look for, and it's called a thesis statement. Essentially, this tells your reader what the purpose is of your essay. And so a great way for you to know what your instructor is looking for is to look at the module learning outcomes. So every module, you have 4 modules. Every module will have learning outcomes on the home page. So every module will have learning outcomes for every assignment on the home page. That is basically what your instructor is looking for, and that is what your instructor will be looking for or measuring your understanding of those concepts. And those are great statements to put into your introduction paragraph, and to help ground you when you're answering these questions. So in addition to the learning outcomes, your assignments will have like 3 or 4 questions that you have to answer. Use those learning outcomes as like the lenses to view those questions. So address the learning outcomes through answering the questions. So consider that with your thesis statement development, and definitely make use of those module learning outcomes because they give you what your instructor is looking for on each assignment. From there, you got your body paragraphs, and so the best recommendations I could give you when you're first getting going in your writing is to break up those questions into sections and subsections using headers and subheaders. So just like on a PowerPoint presentation, you have headers that tell your reader or tell your audience what this slide is about. Same thing within your essay. Include a header, include subsections within that make it overtly obvious to your instructor that you are addressing this part of the assignment. This is the key term that you're going to be addressing. So not only does it provide some structure for you for your essay, but it also makes it very obvious for your instructor that you are hitting all those points within your assignment. And so, again, going back to the content of your assignment, is your instructor looking for the conclusion? Yeah, sure, we're looking for your answer to the question, but again, we're looking for the reasons why. And so when you draft your paragraphs, I kind of want you to think about aiming for about 4 to 7 sentences. Trust me, nobody's going to be counting your sentences out, but I think it's a good guideline for you, because if you're going below that 4-sentence mark, then you're probably being a little bit too brief or concise, and you're not exploring the topics or discussing the topics in detail. So make sure you're going back and citing some evidence from your background readings. Again, we're looking for APA citations and some evidence, some objective research and evidence to support your conclusions. And if you're going above that 7-sentence mark, then you're probably rambling on too much, or you could make that into a more concise structure to better highlight your ideas, or you just need to break up that longer paragraph into some more paragraphs, into maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. But you don't want to go on and on a page and a half of text, of block text. You really want to break that up into small sections and subsections, include those headers, and make it really easy for your instructor to pick out those main points. If you're struggling, again, I talked about the thesis statements above, but if you're struggling in terms of how to start a paragraph and what your instructor is looking for, I always mention these points right here. Define the key term, explain the application of the key term to the assignment, and then discuss why the concept is important to either the module learning outcome or just the class in general. Specifically, and with specific focus to the module learning outcome. So those 3 points, I think if you cover those, that should get you to that 4 to 7 mark. Include some evidence in there to support your ideas, and that's a great way of just getting started. This is not going to be the perfect way. I can promise you that your instructor will give you feedback, but it's really important for you to take that feedback and then just continue to build upon it. Your instructor is not looking for perfection. In fact, you shouldn't expect that of your instructor. We're here to make you better communicators and better critical thinkers. That's our value. That's our objective. And so when you explore these concepts in a variety of different ways by defining and explaining and discussing the value of these concepts, you're in essence exploring these concepts from a variety of different ways, and you're thinking about them in different ways. So consider that when you're drafting up your assignments. And then the conclusion paragraph is the last part of your assignment, and it really just reflects, it's just kind of like a reflection of your introduction. Your introduction is telling your audience what you're going to be talking about, why it's important, and your conclusion is going to be basically stating what you already have talked about and why that's important. And so they're mirror images of each other. Again, this is not an all-inclusive, these are not all-inclusive suggestions. It's just simply to get the wheels going. And over time, you're going to receive more detailed feedback from your instructor to become a better written communicator, a better writer. And so I just highly suggest that you accept that feedback and with willing and open arms. So I hope that helps. Again, refer back to the resources under the writing resources under the resources tab if you need some more in-depth advice. Always reach out to your instructor, because we love hearing from you and we love to support you in this process. Honestly, it is our honor to serve you. So please make use of us.
Thank you, Dr. Delhira. We also have resources to help students outside of the classroom. First, there's Alumni Fire, which is for all current students and Trident alumni. The URL is on your screen now. This is a place where you can connect with other students, alumni, faculty, and staff to get advice on your education, career, and more. For more information, reach out to alumni at trident.edu. We also have Career One Stop, which is a source for career skills development, such as resume reviews, interview practice, and more. This can be accessed on the front page of your student portal right after you log in. If you have any questions on that, reach out to Trident Careers at Trident.edu. That's Trident, the number 4 Careers at Trident.edu. And now we're going to move on to today's Q&A session. Hey there, welcome to the new session, everyone. Just give us a moment as the rest of the panel filters in. Hopefully that presentation was helpful for you. Welcome again. I'll mess up your title, but Admissions Advisor Dylan Villarreal is joining us, and Student Success Advisor 3 Christina Saenz should be on momentarily. And as a reminder, if you have any questions, you can submit them in the question box. And you can find that if you go to the right-hand side of your screen, go about halfway down, you'll see boxes. Questions, of course, type in your questions there, hit submit, and our expert panel will handle things for you. A few of you did find that already. And it's, can't wait another moment for Christina. And don't want to hold everyone up, because I know a lot of you have busy days. You're here on your lunch break, or gotta pick the kids up. So let's jump into this. Are you ready to go, Dylan? First question is for you.
Sure.
And yeah, question from a military student who they pay for their courses via TA. Do we have any, or can you talk about Trident scholarships that are designed for for that group, specifically the Gainey and MSS?
Oh, of course, Daniel. First and foremost, good morning out there, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. As Daniel mentioned, my name is Dylan Villarreal. I am a admissions advisor here at Trident. Just a brief background, I'm a retired Navy. I did 22 years. So to get back to your question, Daniel, we have a few scholarships, and they're available at trident.edu. But the two that I do want to talk primarily about are your MSS, which is your Military Success Scholarship, and your William Joe Gainey Scholarship. So for your first one, your Military Success Scholarship, it's towards your undergraduates. So with the fiscal year just opening up today, or excuse me, on the 1st, each military branch has their own TA policy, so it's best that you stay abreast with that. But just know that the Military Success Scholarship applies automatically to your next course after you exhaust your TA for the fiscal year. So what that ends up being is a savings of 50%. So you get about 500 per your credit hours. For your 4-course credit hour. So that particularly is for our undergraduate level. The William Joe Gainey Scholarship applies to our master's degrees, and that's eligible for our active duty, reserve, and National Guard members. And it works the same way. You use your TA, and after it's exhausted, the William Joe Gainey will come in and reduce your costs by about 50% as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dylan. And keep in mind, we are in the process of revamping these scholarships, and it's information we'll be sharing in the next month. And we're revamping them for one key reason: to make things more straightforward and easier for our military students. Because just from where I stand, not only do I work in marketing, but I'm also a part-time faculty member. Is that I know how busy it gets for a lot of our students, whether they're military or working full-time. So this is one way that we're really looking to enhance the student experience. So, keep an eye out for that. Talk to your advisors, like people like Dylan and Christina. Welcome. Let's see, and next question, and then you see, I'm not sure who to send this one to, but let's see. I'll start with you, Christina, because we have a student who they want to apply for grants, and I have to apologize. I'm trying to piece together the question, and they're asking about Pell Grants, and where in the process would that happen, and how would a student go about applying for that?
I believe you can just go to FAFSA.org, or no, sorry, FAFSA.gov, and then that should have, because it's based off of, that is based off of how much income you make, and so, or if it's like your family's income if you're under a certain age. So I would say that you could just go on there, and then you could put on our school code, and I don't have that right in front of me, but I know that we could put the school code up, and then you would just basically could send your FAFSA to Trident and see, potentially what you could qualify for in Pell Grant. So you could check into that alone if you don't want to take out loans.
And Dylan, from where you stand working in admissions, I imagine that this is a question that comes up from time to time, correct?
Yes. So Pell Grant, like Christina was saying, that's free money basically. And how do you qualify for that? We'll walk through with the student at studentaid.gov, and we'll apply using the FAFSA application. It kind of helps other students, with the financial hardship with going to school, being granted grants for use.
Okay, great, thank you. And then Dylan, we're going to stick with you for bachelor students. What course load would you recommend for a new student?
Oh, that's a great question, Daniel. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve. Everybody has their reason or their goal, and we're here as admissions advisor to help, kind of guide them on their path on their goal for higher education. Bachelors, I would say leadership is a good one. Our bachelor's in leadership is definitely a good one, and that's something for our students to consider, especially as you progress into your military trend. Your path to promotion is something to consider.
Yeah, and I think what this question is getting at is more so kind of classes per session. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're referring to courses per session.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. So usually, yeah.
Okay. So sorry. So yeah, definitely if you're getting back on the horse per se, and you're starting on your bachelor's, then obviously you don't want to overtask yourself, right? I would recommend probably starting off with our Tux 105, which is an introductory course and a requirement, and doing the curriculum, and then kind of gauging, hey, can I accept another class, right? You never want to overtask yourself right off the beginning, because it'll kind of, people will start feeling like, hey, I can't obtain this. So start off slow. I recommend probably doing one course, and if you can handle 2 courses for your next session, then by all means, take on that.
Yeah, and I could just go over some of so for bachelor's level, maximum course load is 3 classes. So that would be the most you could take in any 8-week period. And so sometimes students will take 2 in one session and then 1 in the next one to kind of offset. And so in masters, usually 2 would be the most they'd probably want to take. 3 would be, I think, is exceeding course load. But I think usually they're the missions advisor or the success advisor would be able to help the student gauge, the level of work and make sure it works with their schedule so that it's not too, like you said, too much to take at one time. So yeah, but those are some of the parameters there on how much they could take in that once per session.
Thank you, Christina.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you both. I think that helps out, and yeah, it's yeah, like I was saying earlier, everyone, Trident students, they have full-time jobs, balancing family, and occasionally 5 minutes here and there for some me time. So it's not a race. And next question, I'm gonna send this one to you, Dylan, is for new bachelor students coming in who have have some experience elsewhere, are challenge exams a good opportunity to test out of some of those courses where they have experiences or credit, or that may be helpful for them, so they're not taking information that they're already familiar with.
Thank you, Daniel. So yes, challenge exams are offered. Basically a student will take a proficiency exam, and if they pass, that will be credited toward an undergraduate level degree. And the beauty is there's no fees to attempt to take the exam, and no penalty if the student doesn't pass. So that's an alternative way to try and earn some classes towards your degree. Yes.
And Christina, they're bachelors only right now, correct?
I believe so. I don't believe that there's happening much of the masters. And usually there you're doing like PLA, prior learning assessments. You're showing, usually you have more work experience, so you have something that you could use that to transfer in as showing what you've done, portfolios and stuff like that. So that happens a lot more at the master's level for doing prior learning assessments.
Yeah, and challenge exams, the courses that currently available: biology, psychology, sociology, computer hardware, U.S. history, and a few others. So, and if you have questions about those, definitely ask your advisor, because they're going to be the repository for that information a lot more, and we have a lot of avenues like that can help you
definitely
out.
Talk to your success advisor, because they'll be able to help plan out the path to graduation, figure out which ones you can hopefully get credit for. So it makes it, they got a lot of knowledge and want to help students graduate sooner. So that's our goal. Just as
and as mentioned earlier, a lot of you guys are coming in with a lot of varied experience, whether it's military, work world, and to be honest, there's some people who come in with experiences that they could be in a way teaching some of the classes. So might as well maximize that. Christina, next question for you: what does it mean when my advisor has my classes under review?
Oh, okay. So that means, so part of what we do as success advisors is we have a whole caseload of students. And so and we manage our students through there to try to figure out what's going on, and can see your progress, and can see if, if transcripts are missing, things like that. And so part of it is that when we're trying to help schedule your classes. And so when it's under review, that means that we haven't published it yet. And so usually that means that we're either trying to gather information so that we could help to make a path to graduation. But that basically means that we need to do something in order to publish it so that the student can visually see it. So it means that usually the student can't see it, but we're not trying to hide it from you guys. We're just trying to make sure that it's accurate and that we have your input so that we know what you want to take, and we're on the same page, because it's really got to work for the student. I always remind them, I'm not the one's taking the class, so it's got to work for you.
So in essence, under review isn't necessarily a negative thing. It's just you're trying to organize information and, get on the same page.
Yeah, sometimes it's like when grades post, or if a student goes on an extension, that'll make it go into review. So sometimes there's just various reasons, and it's just to make sure that we're not missing anything. So that's really what it is. It's like to make sure that like something doesn't get missed and then we misadvise a student. So it's there to make sure that we advise students correctly. So there's a lot of things that can happen. So you never know. Like, anyway, so that's why it's there. So it's nothing bad. Just call your advisor and they'll fix it for you.
Great. Yeah, great. Thanks, Christina, and thank you to the person that asked that. And then we have one more question before hand the reins off to Dylan for to end things with a student success story. And send this one to you, Christina. We have a student who they've been out of school for quite some time. They're in a bachelor's program and they're worried about writing. What resources are available for students when it comes to writing? And and then the second part of the question is it appropriate to send an early draft of a paper into a professor to get feedback before submitting it?
Yeah, I think overall, I'm trying to think of all. I used to facilitate I mainly do the doctoral orientation now for new students, but the Trident student orientation has a lot of good information in there that you all will have access to right now and through the whole time that you're in your program, actually. And so part of it is that you can do this. The orientation should have all the resources there for you. I was actually trying to get to it really quickly, but I probably won't get there as quick as I should. But basically, the orientation should outline the different, because we have, let me think. So we do have tutoring. I know, so there's so many resources. We have tutoring if you need help through that avenue. It's usually, I think it's embedded in all classes now. So there's free tutoring. I know that there's also, we use the Turnitin drop boxes. And so when you upload your work through the classroom, through the Dropbox, it's automatically going to get reviewed by Turnitin. Some students will use like outside checkers like Grammarly, things like that, to just check to see, like they're citing their sources correctly, stuff like that. So I would really look at the orientation, and usually in your first class, if you're taking a Tux class, it's really going to be focused on building up those skills, since all of our classes are really like about critical thinking and about being able to write a well-developed paper. So everything's driving towards that same thing always, the same goal of being able to write a good paper and cite it and know how to cite your sources in the proper way. So by APA 7 standards. So.
Yeah, and the build on that, especially since I've started teaching at the bachelor's level, is that Grammarly, which to be honest, what really wasn't that familiar with recently, is actually I've seen it in my own classroom, a very useful tool. I'm kind of old school, and I kind of came up before Grammarly, and just learned all the rules myself. But pointing students in the direction of Grammarly, I have seen like a sea change in writing over from module to module. So new students out there who are a little shaky with writing, I highly recommend that. It's going to help you out a lot. So
yeah, absolutely. And I would just say, going back to the orientation too, if you're not sure, because there's a lot of links and different things that we have in here that we want you to go over. So sometimes if you're panicking about something or unsure, one, either call your advisor, or two, if it's after hours, just try to go in the portal, look at some of the resources, because we really try to make it all here for you, and so that it's not like we're not trying to hide the resources. So sometimes it's just a matter of like clicking around, getting familiar, and just going and being curious sometimes, and like, what is this, and maybe this could help me. So you probably can't break something in here, I don't think so. You never know until you click.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't be afraid to
Yeah.
don't be afraid to communicate either. Because I got a question from a student at 1 a.m. Saturday night, and I responded to that. And so it's just everyone's here to help, and I do want to thank everyone for their attendance. If you have any questions, keep sending them in, because we'll collect all the questions so we can address stuff afterwards. Thank you, Christina, and hand things off to Dylan now to end today's webinar with a student success story. So take it away.
All right, thank you, Daniel. So as Daniel mentioned, today's success story is kind of a 2-for-1, and they're both opposite of the spectrum. Okay, one side you have a student that's getting ready to retire from military service, and then you got on the other side of the spectrum, you have a student that just started their career in the military. So that individual that was getting ready to retire was myself. I was getting ready. I was overseas in Okinawa, and I was getting ready to retire after 22 years. I always wanted to complement my military experience with a degree, but I'll be honest, I felt that I wasn't ready, or I was too late. And I used to always walk into my OIC, my officer in charge office, and I would always see him proudly display his master's in IT from Trident University. So one day I asked him, I said, "Hey, sir, how'd you end up getting this? How's the college?" And he told me nothing but great things. So I did my own research, and in 2019, about 3 years before I was going to retire, I enrolled in college, and I was able to get my bachelor's and master's, before I retired. At the time, I didn't know how influential that would have been, but my son, saw that, and he followed my footsteps, and he enlisted in the Navy as well. And I just found out, August of this year, he already got his associates. So he's aspiring to be a naval officer in the logistics field. So the key takeaway I wanna share with everyone is everyone's timing and reason is unique to what's going on in your own life, but you've made the decision to start your college or get back into college, and that's why you're all here today. I hope by sharing these stories, that it's the reassurance you need that you've made the first big steps, and despite what's ever going on in your life right now, that earning your degree is really achievable being here with Trident. So on that note, I want to end, and I look forward to hearing about all your future successes. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.